All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging on through the technical difficulties. I really appreciate it. I see you all kind of still trickling in, so that is great. Thank you again for being here. We are really excited to get to share some of our students' knowledge with you. My name is DePaul Straub. I'm the Assistant Director in New Student and Transition Services, and I have the honor of hosting these webinars this summer. Today is a really special one. This is a student panel with our current student leaders. So we've got a couple questions that we have kind of teed up for them for us to ask. And then we'll leave it open towards the end for you all to ask some questions that you might have as well. With that being said, we are going to ask that everybody use that Q&A feature to submit their questions. Feel free to submit a question like throughout. We will have some people answering some of them on the chat in the back end. And some of them might be saved again for that end piece for us to do kind of a moderated Q&A. So please know that if you do submit that question, we are seeing it. We just might be holding it for the end, but we will make sure that we get to it for you. So with that and no further delay, I'm going to go ahead and let our students introduce themselves. So I will hand it over to them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liam Hallinan. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a rising senior studying quantitative biosciences and engineering. And here in the New Student and Transition Services office, I work as one of the lead peer mentors for Hell of a Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay. I use she, her pronouns. I am also a rising senior working with Liam on Hell of a Welcome in the New Student Transition Services office, and I'm environmental engineering.
I'm going to be a junior this following semester. I use he, him pronouns. I am studying quantitative biosciences and engineering like Liam, and I am the lead peer mentor of retreat and training this year.
Hi, my name is Danielle Kasowski. I use she, her pronouns. I'm going into my fourth year of environmental engineering, and in the Nest office, I am an Ordiger camp lead.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in to some of our pre-prepared questions for the panel. So I'm going to go ahead and start you all off with just kind of a brief description of what your first year at Mines was like.
I can start us off. Um, my first year at Mines was mostly focused on like getting acclimated to the new environment, getting acclimated to the class structure, kind of having that freedom and figuring out what to do with it. Um, I'm from around the area, so it wasn't super new to me. So I like struggled with feeling like I was independent and on my own and having new experiences. That's something that took me a little bit to figure out. But what I found a lot of comfort in, what really helped me was like clubs and getting involved on campus. I got a couple on campus jobs, tried my hardest to like meet new people. I also worked really hard to like build a new structure for myself. I really struggled with structure before college, and it's really helped me to like figure out how to make my own structure rather than let people do it for me. So it was just a lot of figuring those things out and building the foundation for myself. But it was great, and it really set me up well for the rest of my time.
Yeah, to bounce off of that, I'm actually an out-of-state student, so I had a little bit of an opposite experience. So not only was I moving into mines, I was moving across the country, which was a whole experience in itself. I lived in the trads, which was pretty awesome because there's no AC. You get to know your neighbors really quick because your door is always open. So that was a really good introduction to mines to get to know your peers. I recommend, even if you do have AC, to take the opportunity to get to know people living right next door because that's some of the best support systems you can have. Similar to Ronan, I spent the first year kind of building my routine, trying to explore Colorado. I moved to the mountains for a reason, so I tried a lot of different things with my friends who had cars to go out hiking and things like that. And yeah, just taking advantages of the clubs and different resources on campus to find your stride in school, but also in your social life.
Yeah, I'll bounce off of what Danielle was saying. I'm also from out of state, so moving to Colorado was definitely a new experience for me. My first year was filled with a lot of highs and lows. I made a lot of great friends, but I also got pretty homesick at some points and just wasn't sure if I was really like mines was the place for me. But I decided to kind of stick it out and see what Minds had in store for me. A lot of my time was spent towards developing my academics because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't falling behind, that I could handle kind of some of the more challenging courses. But also developing friendships and relationships was super important to me. So that made up a good majority of my first year. Arguably, even my first weeks was just developing that support system and finding the things, people, events, etc., that would kind of help me develop more of a community and a sense of identity here at Minds.
I like Ronan am also in state, but I did have a different experience of even though I am close to Golden originally, I was still pretty nervous to come to college and start this whole new chapter on my own. So a lot of like what the other three said, my first year at Mines was adjusting and figuring out how to best navigate academics and balancing a social life. And similarly to the other three, I think a big support system was found in getting involved on campus, which I know we'll touch on a little bit later, but it definitely helps to find places that feel like home and that make you feel safe and like you're a part of the Minds community.
So, all right. So, talking about obviously, I know you all, there is a plethora of campus resources and services available for you all. So, can you talk a little bit about what resources that you've utilized the most while on campus and kind of how those have helped you?
I can start. For me, just anything that my professors offer, a lot of times, especially your first year, it does feel intimidating to approach your professors and ask for help in this class or just even if you're struggling with something else that you feel like you can connect with them. Even it can feel intimidating to go to office hours, but everything that your professors are offering to you is there to benefit you and help you in their class and in your time at mine. So I think the biggest one for me is just office hours and any other help or support that my professors are offering.
One of the resources that I wish I used sooner that I've just started using in my college career is the Career Center and the Writing Center. I feel like people always tell you to go to those types of things, and you're kind of like, oh no, I got it. But seriously, like the Career Center was such an amazing resource. I went in for a mock interview for a couple different jobs, and you just give them a little synopsis of what you think your interview will be like, and they do a full mock interview to help you get those jitters and those nerves out. And that can even span to something as simple as career advice and like looking over your resume. They're just such diverse office that I wish I would have used sooner.
Big one for me, I wouldn't say I utilize it the most frequently, but probably the most helpful so far has been the health center, the student health center. So from being out of state, there's not a ton of like doctors' offices that are super, super close to campus. So I think that was a fantastic resource for me whenever I wasn't feeling well to be able to quickly make an appointment and call them and reach out to them for assistance. They also have 24/7 telehealth care that's available to all mine students. So on the weekend or things like that, I think that's a really fantastic opportunity. And another big one that I know a lot of people don't talk about is the library. The library has fantastic access, not only like electronically in terms of records and papers and different scientific journals that you can read, but the librarians themselves are tremendous resources. They are fantastic at helping you kind of formulate research questions or kind of guide you in a particular direction based on what you're trying to learn or study. You can also check out almost every single course textbook at the library for a couple of hours. So whether or not you plan on purchasing those textbooks, you can go to the library, check out a copy for a few hours, and be able to reference some of that material.
I have utilized a bunch of different resources at Minds, but I'm going to shout out a couple. One that I feel like you'll hear a lot, and it's true, is like professors' office hours. They are always really willing to help. They set aside time to meet with students specifically to help them. So it's incredibly useful to go to those times. Those are times that professors want to provide resources and give you guidance, give you information that you may not get during class, or you can ask questions. If I'm ever struggling or worried about a test or anything like that, generally I've gotten a lot of help by going to office hours, and professors are actually very excited to talk to people and help people in their office hours generally. Another resource is Blaster's Basket. In the Student Center, there is I don't know what to call it. But it's like there's like this room where they store a bunch of food that's donated to the school, and it's free for students, and you go and you can take some, which is great for meals, or if you're really, really hungry in the middle of the day and don't have the money for buying a snack or something, it's a great resource. So I checked that out. And then also the spaces on to kind of build on the library spaces on campus, like the coffee shops. I know that I always need to get out and find a space on my own to do homework or study or anything like that. So there's a lot of great spaces. I like to, the first couple weeks I explored campus to look for different areas I'd like to study or do homework. And there's a lot of great ones. So I definitely, if that's how you all function, that would be something I'd recommend.
To piggyback on the library, they also have a ton of stuff that you wouldn't even think. Like you can check out cameras to like take videos if you like need to do a project for a class. They've got, I'm sure they have like spike ball and just a ton of random stuff that you can also wouldn't necessarily think. The library is a great underutilized resource.
Yeah, those are all great ones. Which kind of honestly leads us into our next question. Kind of talking about how you got like involved on campus. So what did that look like in terms of, I would say, for some students, they sign up for a lot of things or come in with some things. For some students, they kind of take a little while to kind of get used to campus and then get involved. What did that kind of journey of getting involved look like for you all?
Yeah, I would say mine was pretty mixed, honestly. There were a couple things that I was involved in kind of my first semester, and then some of those things have shifted. And I recently just joined one club last semester, the Creative Arts Club. I think one thing that made it easier for me in terms of getting involved, was just trying things with friends. I'm consider myself a little bit more of an introverted person, and so having someone to go try things with and like just have a resource there, or a buddy to talk to, was super beneficial because then I was able to just have that sort of connection. If we both decided we didn't like it, we could leave. But if I did go and we did like it, then that was at least a way that I could know someone right off the bat while I got involved. I think it's really easy to kind of just ebb and flow through those things. So you might be super involved at some points and not as involved in others. But meeting and talking to the people that you are involved with, whether that be, a club or a job on campus, forming those connections and like talking with people in person, I have found to be like the places that I've been most involved, if that makes sense.
One of the biggest involvement fairs happens your first week at Mines. It's called Celebration of Mines, and it's typically on that first Friday. Pretty much every single club on campus is lined up around with sign up sheets, info about their club. That's where I found my original involvement. I kind of just threw my email down for anything I was remotely like that resonated with me, and you're not committed, so you can just get the email, see where they're meeting, see what time, pop into a meeting. I feel like it's a misconception that you aren't allowed to just pop into a meeting. Like if you go to one, you have to go to them all. Clubs are constantly looking for more people and will not be hurt if you ever just pop in to their meetings. So don't be shy if you go there and you're not sure if you want to fully commit. Just throw your email down and at least you'll be a little bit informed. Similar to Liam, I've had a lot of ebbs and flows in my involvement. But another way that I like to get involved is doing like intramural sports. Those are really fun, and you can do them with anyone on campus, people from your class, people from your floor. And it's just a great way to meet other people who are interested in the same kinds of things as you.
To build on that, I actually wasn't very involved for a while. I coming into campus was fairly introverted. I've actually come out of my shell a lot in college. I was afraid to like commit fully to things, and I didn't know a lot of people. So really, the only clubs I participated in were through friends that suggested that I kind of already knew or met. But the way that I really started meeting people was going to classes. I know it sounds kind of obvious, but something that I would definitely emphasize is try to go to your classes as much as possible. It's not only like helpful for staying on track with things, but also it helps to be around and be involved and see meet people more, get involved in study groups, things like that. So going to things helps, especially in a campus like this where people can get very focused. If you're not attending events or classes or anything like that, it becomes a lot harder to find people when everybody's so busy. So that's something I definitely highly recommend. And then it wasn't until I got a job at Labriola, which I forgot to shout out, but that's a great resource. It's like the machining shop. It's brand new. It's got great materials, great 3D printers, wood shop, metal shop. I got a job there, and I started meeting a lot of people through that, which was great. And then I became a peer mentor, which I've loved. Has been a great way to like build a community and meet new people and meet people coming into campus. I got a lot of fulfillment through like Ordiger Camp and helping other people get excited about school. And so it was just kind of trying new opportunities. Don't be afraid to put down your information, like Danielle said, and go to things. There's so many opportunities, which can be overwhelming, but also really fun. So just try to do as much as you can and figure out what works for you.
Yeah, to build off that and what everyone else was saying, there is so much, like, so many great opportunities on Minds to be involved, whether that is the 200 plus student clubs and orgs or IM sports. I joined Greek Life my first semester and have been in a sorority since then. So whatever involvement looks like for you is just I also recommend like reaching out and just signing up or even going to one meeting of whatever interests you because Minds just offers so many things that appeal to anyone and everyone, which is great. I'm also involved in undergrad research. I know a few other people are too, but I'll speak on that. I think just all the involvement, like academics wise and clubs and IM sports are a great way to kind of balance out and round out your time at Mines, but undergrad research is a good way to get experience for if you're interested in internships or working, kind of using your time in school to figure out if your major and what you're researching is interesting to you. So I've really enjoyed undergrad research.
And then I think one last little thing to touch on is that it's okay to not be super involved. Like it may seem a little bit obvious, but like all of us are decently involved on campus, but we weren't all that way at one point, and we probably won't be at other points. So not only just like within a semester, if you're busy one week, then you can, miss some of your obligations or things like that. But I think just generally, it's okay to find maybe a couple of things that you're really interested and be more deeply involved in those than it is, you don't have to be involved in 15 different clubs and organizations and jobs and things like that. So being able to move at your own pace and like be flexible with yourself, don't feel like you have to be super involved from day one and in all the clubs and all the sports and all the things like that, I think is an important balance to remember.
Yeah, I think those are all such great ways. And I think, Lindsay, I really appreciate it. And Ronan, too, I appreciate y'all bringing up like the ideas that are not just like clubs and orgs necessarily, but even like working on campus or doing undergrad research or doing a wide variety of things. Because there are quite a few ways to be involved in minds that aren't necessarily just your typical like clubs and organizations, although that is a great option as well. All right. So obviously, I know you all go to mines, and mine sometimes is difficult, or things come up, right? Or college life is difficult. So if you were ever struggling, who did you reach out to for help?
I'll share something that I feel like is oftentimes overlooked, especially if you feel you're struggling in a class, you're definitely not alone. And it can feel kind of scary to reach out to other classmates, because I know it's easy to fall back on your roommates or your friends that you've made before this class, but people, like all your classmates are looking for other students in the same class for help, like study buddies or going to office hours together. So making that first step, and maybe it's just the person who sits next to you or someone you've been interested in getting to know more, just taking the initial step to make that conversation and get to know them so that you do have someone you can ask for help for in that class is really important and not as intimidating as it should be because I can guarantee almost everyone is also looking for another classmate to be friends with.
To build off of that, the community at Mines is really cool. It's kind of small, and we're all very like focused on doing things at a high level. So it actually would seem like it'd be really competitive, but that kind of I feel like falls away, especially when we're all kind of struggling together with these difficult classes. So e- using each other as a resource is really helpful. Another thing is as an in-state student. Um, I would highly recommend trying to stay on campus as much as possible. It's really easy to want to go home, and your parents are a great resource. It's good to call them. But if you leave campus, it makes it harder to build those connections on campus and build those like support nets, friends, people in classes that help you. So I would try to reach out to the people around you rather than rest on your family being nearby as an in-state student. But the teachers also are incredibly understanding, especially if you're respectful and you show that you're interested in class, you go to class. Generally, they're very understanding and willing to work with you. So that's another great resource that I've used a lot is actually just emailing a teacher or going to office hours again.
Yeah, so not to shout out our own office, but peer mentors, my first year relied on them a lot because they'll teach your CSM 101 class, so your introduction to college class, and it'll be two upperclassmen students who have been exactly in your position, and just relying on them to help me pick out classes of different professors that I didn't know who to take, or asking them tips and tricks about how to get around campus or how to get over how they got over their own homesickness. They're just good resources who are maybe a little less intimidating because you've gotten to know them through your class rather than other upperclassmen who you may not know as well. So leaning on the people right around you is a really great strategy.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I also think reaching out to your friends, family, and support system back home, wherever that might be, is super helpful. So a lot of my closest friends are not in the STEM field whatsoever. And so at first I was a little unsure of how I would be able to lean on them if they didn't really understand what I was going through. But it's actually been really rewarding and beneficial to me in that kind of sense that even if they don't know what's going on necessarily, I can rely on them for like emotional support and things like that. And just to be able to have some connections there, I think it's really important that no matter where home is, you still kind of remember some parts of where you came from and remember that those people are still rooting for you and there to help you as you transition. And it's not just the wonderful many resources on campus or the new friends that you'll make, etc., but that there's a bunch of other people that care about you as well.
Awesome. All right. It looks like we're coming up on our last question. So, friendly reminder, students that are on here, this is also going to be your time to get your questions answered. So, if there are questions that we don't get to or that you want to know, feel free to drop those in that Q&A section, and we'll make sure we get to those here in just a second. But to wrap things up with our last like pre-prepared question, what do you all think is the most important thing for students to know as they start their time at Mines?
I can start this one off. Um, The thing that I love about Minds is that everybody seems to have something that they're very passionate about, something they're very driven about, or that they're very interested in. Everybody has a different focus, but you can learn a lot from people around you. And with that comes a lot of challenge because the things that you're doing at Minds are a lot more high level than a lot of people are used to. They're a lot more demanding. So it's really hard not to get bogged down in that. Um, and not to like, there's a lot of people who will complain, especially the first year, about how hard things are and how much they're struggling. And it's hard not to get brought down by that. But if you kind of try to focus on how exciting things are, you have this really cool opportunity to learn these new things. There's people around you who are willing to talk to you about all these really cool niche ideas and concepts and classes and all these really cool resources that are around you. Um, and use that as like motivation and to keep you going. It's a great school. There's a lot of really great like resources and opportunities. So trying to keep a good mindset about things, try to be excited, trying to be excited. You're not always going to be excited. If you don't do well on a test, if you struggle, like you're not always going to be like, whoopee, yay. But it's good to like look forward and try to realize the situation you're in and make the most of this opportunity rather than talk about how awful it is the whole time. Like, try to be optimistic about it because it'll help your experience. It'll make it better to be optimistic about it and to have a better look on it. If you're just a downer about it the whole time, it's going to be worse. So, try to have a good attitude and surround yourself by people who have good attitudes and spread that energy. It really helps.
Yeah, I would say a big thing I think is important is to be honest with yourself, but also to be gentle with yourself. And what I mean by that is, um, Minds is a great place to reflect on who you are now and who you want to become as a part of your college experience in the next portion of your life. But also being honest with yourself about like if you want to accomplish certain things or stick to a certain schedule or get certain grades or be a certain level of involvement. I think it's important to be checking in with yourself and to be honest about how you're doing with your goals or your aspirations and not just kind of coasting through things. That being said, it's also important to not be too rigid with those kinds of goals and interests and things like that. And that it's not all about studying and schoolwork or being super involved, and that a lot of the experience is just how you learn and grow. And so taking time away to just walk around campus or do something fun that's low stress, low stakes is super important. I try and take at least one day off per week that is just absolutely zero schoolwork whatsoever. I think it's super easy sometimes for it all to just kind of bleed together and feel like you're nonstop working or doing involvement things. So if I have one day that I can kind of just take to myself and do pretty much absolutely nothing, I found that's been really recharging for me and allowed me to bring my full self to everything else that I'm doing.
To piggyback off of what Ronan was saying, one of the biggest things we hear is the idea of imposter phenomena. And it's something pretty much everybody goes through, whether you believe it or not. Like, as I'm going into my fourth year, having reflected and talked with people about their first year, pretty much everyone I know experienced this. You got into mines for a reason. Not everybody gets in here. You're going to a hard school. You're going to a school where you're going to get an amazing education and have amazing opportunities presented to you. And you deserve to be there. Like, we wouldn't be well,
Oh,
but you'll find your
hey,
stride.
no, we
And
lost you there for about
oh
10
no,
seconds.
oh no, I'm sorry.
You're good. No worries.
Where did you lose me?
And that they are here for a reason.
Oh yeah, you're here for a reason. And as Ronan was saying, you might like lose your stride a little bit, but have ebbs and flows. But you're here for a reason. You deserve to be here. And everyone around you is also thinking the same thing, probably comparing themselves to you. So comparison's the thief of joy. Just take it one day at a time and just remember that you are here for a reason and things will fall into place.
Just real quick to really, oh, right, Lindsay.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Um, I really, I totally lost my train of thought. I got distracted by interrupting Lindsay. That's my bad. One second. Oh yeah, the comparison is a thief to joy. Everybody around you is doing incredible things all the time. You're never going to like measure up to everybody. It's not a competition. Like really just focus on what you want to get out of it and what your long-term goals are, and you'll be way happier. Like there's always going to be someone who's doing something you think is incredible. So instead of being like, "Oh, why can't I be like that?" Maybe go talk to them. Maybe go ask them how they are doing that. Maybe see if you can get involved with what they're doing, and try to grow that way and make it more of a personal growth. Try to compare yourself to where you were rather than where people are around you, because then you're never going to be satisfied. So I that's a really big thing that I've noticed makes all the difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, building off of a lot of all of your ideas, just everyone at Mines is in such a similar boat of feeling like they're struggling through their classes and just the academic rigor of Mines. But just knowing that everyone is in it together is really helpful, and knowing that you can reach out at any point and everyone you talk to will understand the hardships that we all go through. So yeah, I guess just Mines is such a strong community that you can always count on and always know that we are all in this together.
Then to also drive home one of what I think was Liam's most important points is it's okay to take a break. That like couple of out like the 1 hour study break you take to go on a walk or to make sure you're fueling yourself correctly or taking that one day on the weekend to recharge is not going to set you back and it will probably honestly push you forward. So do not be afraid to take time for yourself and to take a break.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is all of our pre-prepared questions. So now we're going to open it up to you all to kind of ask whatever you want to know. So this is really your time to ask the questions that you might still have, get some answers from some of our current students or some advice or thoughts. So feel free, like I said, to submit through those Q&A section for us. And I will start asking those as we go. We can also pull a couple from our last one if we need to. I'm not seeing any yet, so I'm going to give you all just one for now. But one that I know we've talked a lot about is what is one thing that you wish you would have brought for the residence hall that you didn't? And then one thing that you did bring that you never used, and you were like, I don't know why I brought this. Or it could just be general, like, I had this thing and it was great.
I have two things. My favorite thing that I brought was and this sounds funny, but it was a collapsible laundry basket. Laundry baskets kind of take up a large amount of space, and most of the time they're not there for very much stuff, assuming you're doing your laundry semi-frequently. So it was nice for me to have a collapsible one because then when I wouldn't have any laundry or wouldn't have a lot, it would be able to like tuck down somewhere or take up less space. And I mean, most of the dorms you have plenty of space, but at the same time, it's nice to not clutter up your room. Um, Another thing that I think was super helpful was a desk lamp. So most dorms are going to have kind of great lighting everywhere, but it's nice if you can bring your own lamp, even if it's something super small, to have kind of more of like a focused light in some on your desk. Um, One thing that I never used, I bought one of those storage ottomans thinking it would be great, and it just collected junk. So for me, I was not a fan of the storage ottoman. I know some people will probably disagree with me on that. That's kind of a strong opinion, but that's just my experience.
Yeah, to go off a couple things you said, I do wish I had a lamp because my desk was right in front of a window, which was great during the day, but I didn't want to keep my roommate up if I was up later doing homework or studying. So I think a more like personal lamp would have been nice. Because I would just end up going to like our communal room, which for me, at least just getting my own work done wasn't ideal. But then going back to the like storage ottoman. I do think just anything for organizing your dorm space is really helpful because, at least for me, I collected a lot of random little things throughout my first year from like clubs and orgs giving out free little like lanyards or bags or cups and stuff. And at least my dorm was pretty small, so trying to maximize space and like not let the clutter get so crazy A lot of storage bins and like ottomans and little containers for everything was really helpful so that my space stayed like neat and I had the room I needed.
I'll amend my statement slightly. I did have like a Sterilite stacking drawer, and that was fantastic for me. Just the actual ottoman itself wasn't, but I do agree with like generally storage solutions are very helpful.
If you're gonna live in the trads, invest in a good fan. It'll be your best friend. There is no AC, and while it seems like not a big deal, it's really hot, especially since it's an older building. But that's no hate to the trads. I love them. Another little thing that was like random that was super beneficial was command like hooks for your towels. So like a place to store your towels, like on the outside of I don't even remember what they're called, but your like dresser thing, that was fabulous. And I agree to the sentiments of the stackables because that you get a lot more storage with a lot more vertical space.
Um, there's a couple things. I'm not a very tall person, so having like a small collapsible stepping stool was actually really nice for like hanging things and reaching on top of the closet and like different things like that. So that's actually that was nice. Some of the dorms don't allow command strips. Um, I don't know which ones that it are. In my experience, they weren't very heavily enforcing that rule, especially if you're careful. But they are very useful. Also, I did in my they're like I had this like little metal drawer stacking thing. I still use it in my closet, but it was really nice to have to like expand the amount of storage that I had. I just put it underneath my hanging clothes in my closet, and that's where I put the rest of my clothes and like my band-aids and toothbrush and all that stuff. So that was really nice to have. And lamp, I had two lamps. I had a bed lamp that clamped to the side of my bed. That was really nice for reading at night. I will uh, just pile on to the having a lamp is really nice because my roommate would go to bed hours before I ever would. So it's just really nice to have that light source that isn't like, glaring for whoever's trying to get some sleep. So.
All right. So we've got a couple different questions we can start asking. So the first one we received was, were any of you part of an SLC your first year? And if so, what was that like?
Yes, I was. I was part of the Ortiger leadership community, which I'm not 100% sure still exists, to be fully honest. But I really enjoyed that experience. I had made a lot of close friends within the people that were within that group. And so just kind of some extracurricular activities and the friendships that were shared there were super nice because it was a constant community that I was with throughout my first year. Um, I really enjoyed it. It also didn't take up too terribly much of my time in terms of um, like number of hours in a given week. So I really enjoyed that as well, that it was kind of a not necessarily like low priority, but just low commitment group of people that I could be involved with.
Yeah, I was also in an SLC. I was in athleticism and wellness. That one is really cool because you get to do a lot of activities with like-minded people, which is similar for any SLC. Like everyone who joins the SLC is obviously applying because they're like-minded. And for me, that was super awesome to like have that community around me. And your RAs plan a lot of fun events like surrounding the SLC. So they would like take us to the creek to go tubing and host like tons of games. And that's pretty much where all of my IM teams came from. Similar to Liam, there is not a ton of commitment. It's just a fun way to meet people in a different way.
Awesome. What about sororities and fraternities, if you all have experience with that, or kind of what life is like in one, either a sorority or a fraternity? Or any of you in Greek life? I can't remember.
Yes, out of the four of us, I'm the only one, so I can speak on that. I joined my sorority my first year at Mines, so coming like before starting college, I signed up for the recruitment process, which was a little intimidating as is any new experience. But I am very grateful I did that. And Greek life has been really impactful at my time at Mines, and has just given me such like a second home where I can connect with all these girls that are similar to the SLCs, like very like-minded and interested in similar things as me. All fraternities and sororities have a philanthropy. So my sorority is Pi Beta Phi, and our philanthropy is children's literacy. So a big draw of Greek life is community service and outreach. And through our volunteering, we're able to go to some elementary schools and read to their students, which is really fun. I would recommend, even if you're like slightly interested in just getting to know more about Greek life, you should go through recruitment because you don't have to commit to joining a fraternity or sorority, but even just going through the process is a great way to meet everyone who is also interested. Um, I'm still friends with a lot of girls who went through recruitment with me and didn't end up joining a sorority because it was just um like realized it wasn't a fit for them, but still the recruitment process is just a great time to meet more people.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that, Lindsay. And then we got another question about kind of specifically for those of you who are QBE majors, but also I think kind of is a good question generally. Talking about like typically the first semester is scheduled for somewhere between 12 and 15 credit hours. So is that amount of hours, would y'all consider that to be really busy, or do you feel like 12 credit is better? And then maybe taking the extra class like in the summer, like is that a possibility over the summer? Just kind of your thoughts around like class load and like course registration and that kind of stuff.
I can speak on this a little bit, and I'm sure Liam can as well. But I mean, we all can. But specific to QBE, 15 isn't too bad. It definitely requires that you are a little bit more planned out with your time and a little bit more diligent, but it's nothing bad. Really, when it starts getting overwhelming is once you get past like the when you get into like 17 or 18 credits. That's kind of overwhelming. I'm personally never going to do that much. I actually generally sign up for when you do sign up. I generally just sign up for about 17 credits and then drop a class, like 17, 18 credits and then drop one, just so I like have options and I can get into those classes. But you can always drop a class before classes start. I, unless you really want to get ahead, it's very feasible. I've met a lot of people who have done it. It just makes it hard to commit your time to other things. So 15 is usually fine. More than that gets a little bit tough. My first semester I did 16 and it was okay. But that's also with a lot of the prereqs. I will say that a lot of people find the intro to bio classes and intro to chem classes pretty challenging. They require I mean, you can do well in them. It's if you go to class and you pay attention, you ask for help, you can do well. It just they require more time than some of the other classes. So if you are going to take 15 credits, I'd just be prepared to put aside the time for them. But overall, that's 15 should be manageable. And if it's not, that's okay. And you can always ask for help from different resources around campus and friends.
Yeah, to kind of tag onto that, I would say one thing that people might not necessarily know is that most semesters at Mines are typically 15 to 16 credit hours or somewhere in that realm in order to help you graduate on time. So while it's certainly possible to do 12 credit hours and then make up for it either in a different semester or over the summer, typically the flow charts are planned pretty intentionally to kind of allocate more difficult and maybe a little less challenging classes together. I've taken summer classes the last 2 summers. And while that was a great option for me to kind of meet my graduation goals and things like that, they definitely go at a significantly faster pace than they do during the semesters. So you do end up dedicating a little bit more time on a weekly basis to those summer classes. So even though they might not take up your whole summer, they are typically a little bit more fast paced. So something to keep in mind. Um, But again, on the flip side of that, like one of the summer classes I took was fully asynchronous, which means no like weekly in-person meetings or Zoom meetings or anything like that. It was just complete all of the work at your own pace by the certain deadlines. So that was fantastic because I was working last summer, so I was able to get things done. Um, Long and short of it, I think 15 credit hours for your first semester is definitely doable. Most people will be in a similar boat to you. But again, if you are concerned or you feel like after a certain point that 15 is too much, you can certainly drop one of your courses and make up for it later.
Awesome.
Sorry, DePaul.
Yeah, you're good. Go
Can I
ahead.
just add something real
Yeah,
quick?
please do.
Um, I my experience personally was I was a actually mechie aerospace when I first came to mines, so I was kind of behind. So I ended up taking Chem 2 over the summer. And it really depends on the class, but Chem 2 is a very difficult class to take over the summer because you have a lab and it's a very accelerated course, 6 weeks. So I would recommend trying not to take classes like that over the summer. But I also took like anatomy and physiology because I'm trying to get a biomedical engineering minor and I'm trying to do take that route. So I took that over this last summer. So it can be a really good resource. You just have to plan carefully what classes you take. And if you have any more questions about that, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. This is not the only opportunity you have to talk. I'm not to speak for everybody, but this is not the only opportunity you have to talk to us or me. I'd be happy to answer questions outside of this. If you all have any about switching majors, about QBE, about any of that summer classes. Um, yeah, you're welcome to reach out.
Also, just to add on to that really quick, 15 credit hours of lecture is going to look a lot different than 15 credit hours if you have a lab attached. So, just when thinking about maybe one semester you do really well with 15 credits and they were all lecture, think about how that balance might change if you add a lab in at the same amount of credits.
Awesome. And we just got this question in the chat, so I think this is an important piece. And certainly, if you all want to cover just the basics, and then I can kind of fill in where needed. Just for clarification, can you all talk about how student schedules are made kind of the first semester and then beyond that?
Sure. So yeah, your first semester, your schedules will be created for you. And the reason that's done is one, to make sure that you stay on track and that you are taking the classes that you need to, as well as not taking classes that are necessarily too advanced in your first semester. But it also helps some of the departments, specifically with the larger classes in the core curriculum. So most people are going to be taking Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Physics 1, etc. It kind of helps those departments plan out how many people are going to be in their classes. So your first semester, that will all be created for you, and it's specifically designed to help introduce you to Minds and take as many of the core curriculum classes as possible, kind of in that frame. Every semester after that, you are responsible for registering for your own classes. Um, Everyone does that a little bit differently, but we will teach in our CSM 101 course. We do teach a lesson on registration during the week or just the week before the registration process happens for the spring semester. So you'll have the ability to ask your peer mentors questions about your prospective schedule, how to physically register for classes, like what that looks like. And again, everyone does it differently. So like you can follow the flow chart pretty exactly. I know there have been semesters where I've taken 100, 200, 300, and 400 level classes all at the same time. So it's just up to you really to plan and track those things. Like I have a color-coded spreadsheet because that's what works for me. But the registrar's office is also a great place to go if you have other questions about that maybe your fellow students might not be able to answer, and they can kind of make sure that you're on track with everything there. Hopefully that answers everything.
Also, while your first year schedule is made for you. It is not set in stone. I wouldn't recommend like if you get it before coming to school changing it, but for me, like the calc that I was put in was just I had to reflect and take a step back and realize that I probably needed to drop down and retake the one before. And that was a super simple process. I just went to the registrar and we redid my schedule. So that first week is super flexible. Just go to the classes you're registered for, and if you feel like you need to make a switch, it's super easy. Don't feel like you're set in stone.
Yeah, one important thing I want to note here is we did have a little bit of a change this year. So if any of you are a transfer students did create their own schedules earlier this summer in working closely with CASA and the registrar, just kind of as a heads up. But all incoming first year students, your schedule is like made for you. In addition to that, CASA is going to be doing a ton of walk-in hours and advising during Hell of a Welcome. So you'll have the opportunity to use those if you do want to change anything in your schedule, or look at adding a course or dropping something or changing things around. And you will have that opportunity during Hello Welcome as well. Perfect. Any other questions that you all still have while we have the time set aside and our students here?
Could I just real quick mention a resource that is kind of overlooked is GroupMe. It's used for a lot of clubs. It's used for organizations. Um, I would definitely check that and try to use or sign up for GroupMe chats as much as possible. It's a really good way to reach out to people. You can also look people up. So if you wanted to ask any of us questions, once you get onto the Minds GroupMe, you could look up our names and then just send us chats through that. I check it regularly. I don't know about everybody else, but it's a great way to get in touch with people.
Yeah. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So really quickly, panelists, if you all just want to give kind of your, oh, just kidding, we just got one. Huh. So really quickly, we'll cover this one too. What can a student do if he or she gets very homesick? Or for those of you who maybe like experience that, kind of what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I would say for me, one thing that really helped was some kind of like personal item from home that kind of was like a signifier of home. So like I have this little glass of excuse me, a little jar of sea glass in my room that I collected with my family before I left, and that was super important to me. So it's nice to have like a physical object to look at. Um, but another one also is like photos. So like you can print out like 4x6 little photos and keep those. I think that's a great little memory. I would say reaching out to your family members and friends back home in your support systems is super important. They're there to support you. And if you are a supporter, to also be very receptive to students who are kind of experiencing those things. I think that's very important and definitely helped me when things were difficult. Um, and also know that you're not the only person experiencing homesickness. I think everyone, even if they live close, experiences it to a certain degree, and that you can check in with other people on campus related to things like that.
Yeah, everything you said was perfect, Liam. I will add, like I am from close to mine, so I was like able to go home, not very frequently, but I did have the privilege of going home on like people from further away, but I was still experiencing homesickness and just living on my own and being a lot more independent was just a huge change as it is for most people. And being from in-state, I was kind of scared to admit that I was homesick and like go to my family and friends from home and be like, I miss you guys and I am struggling without my support system being so close and available to me. But just taking again that first step and admitting if you do need help and if you are struggling, because like 10 out of 10 times people that you do reach out to will want to help you and will want to support you.
Also, don't not saying to ignore the issue, but what I found really helps is building a schedule that you can stick to kind of build some normalcy, get used to kind of the flow of things, and then try to find things that make you really excited on campus. Try to take as many opportunities to hang out with people as you can. Build kind of a comfortable, safe environment for yourself at school. And it'll make it a lot easier to feel okay being on your own if you have like something regular that you're more used to and people that you're more comfortable with. And so it's really important to build that for yourself when you first get to school, because as the semester goes along, it can get a lot more daunting if you don't.
Really quickly before we wrap up, I just saw that one question I just put in the Q&A section for y'all, but how about like time management tips? Like, does Casa help with that? Like, did you all kind of have to develop that on your own? Like, what does that piece look like for you?
I can start, and I was able to kind of learn on my own through trial and error, like realizing, like, oh, this is way too much for me to handle right now, or on the other hand, like, I feel like I have too much free time and I would rather be doing something more productive with my time. So kind of just figuring out the balance of classes and hanging out with your friends and being involved in extracurriculars. But CASA is also able to help you navigate, especially on the academic side of things, like how much time you should be how much time you should be devoting to this class and this homework or studying for this class and like going from class to class and if it's easier to stay on campus or like stay in this part of campus so you're not like walking around all day. Yeah, so I would say class is really helpful, but also just taking the time to learn what works and is best for you and everything you have going on in your life.
Uh, One thing that helped me a lot before I got to college was I always tried to keep everything together in my head, keep track of everything that I had to do, all my obligations, responsibilities. I kind of made it work. But I got to college. I actually read this book that suggested the strategy that has really worked for me. The idea was to write down throughout the day everything that came up that you knew you had to do, responsibilities, chores, homework. Whether it's planning to study, write it down on a list and then don't think about it that day. And then the next day in the morning, when you get up, you will write a separate list that's your things to do that day from the list that you created yesterday. And then as you go, you'll continue to build this list of things that you know you have to do. But you can only focus on the ones you set aside for yourself in that day. So it makes it more manageable and less overwhelming when everything's going on to have like, I know I just need to focus on these things today. And anything else that comes up today, I'll put onto the other list and I'll worry about that tomorrow. I'm really bad at writing things down though. So a resource I would really highly recommend is using Outlook in general, because that's where your email is generally through. They have like a tasks that comes with the email. You can download it on, I have it on all my devices. I have like a widget on my phone. But I like put, there's like a My Day bar and then a tasks bar. And I just like type it in there really fast and you can check them off. And that was worked miracles for me and my ability to be structured. So I'd highly recommend trying that for you, but it's also trial and error.
One of,
You're good,
that's
Danielle.
okay. One of the biggest pieces of advice I have for first years is pack everything you're gonna need for your day. One of the biggest time wasters I saw as a first year was people constantly going back and forth from where they needed to be to their dorm to get stuff. And because it's so easy access, you don't even think about it. But then you end up in your dorm, you end up talking to people, you end up possibly laying in your bed. So if you just set yourself up for a good day from the start, that's often like you don't end up accidentally getting off track. So just start yourself off with a good morning and be prepared for the day.
Awesome. All right. I'm gonna have us finish out. I know we're running up. We've got just a couple minutes left. So, just kind of quick final answer from you all. And somebody had asked about life in Golden. So, any place you recommend for hanging out with friends, trying new activities, restaurants, anything like that. So, I'll have each of you kind of just quickly answer this one, and then we'll do some reminders and wrap up.
Go to the creek. It's such a good like walking trail, running trail. There's hikes off of it within walking distance to campus. So if you feel like you can't make it out into the mountains or you're like just craving some outside time, it's such a good close resource with so many more things than it looks like it has from the start.
Mm. In Golden, there's a lot of really cool outdoor spaces. So it's a great place to go outside and get active, go on hikes. All the mesas that surround the school are really cool. They have a lot of really cool hikes on them. There's parks at the base of them. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And then in terms of restaurants, I like Thai Gold. There's Sherpa House, which is right near the school on Washington. There's Bob's Burgers. That's a fantastic one. They do like, is it 30% off for students on Wednesdays or something like that? Some crazy discount. They have really cool, really good burgers. They have cool like weekly specials and stuff. So definitely check that out.
I was also gonna say the Creek and most of those restaurants. Also their Golden has so many coffee shops like Cafe 13, Higher Grounds, Red Solo, and kind of going back like super quickly to the last question, scheduling in breaks is so helpful and Golden makes it so easy to like step out, go to the creek, go on a hike or walk, go to a coffee shop, like just explore Golden with your friends and taking that time away from campus is really beneficial for your time.
The three things that we're going to talk about was going to be the coffee shops, restaurants, and the creek. So y'all have nailed it perfectly. There's plenty of great things to do, and honestly, just wandering around Washington, which is the main street, is really cool to just see kind of everything that's going on. There have been a couple of places I've discovered over the years of being here. So just definitely get out there and look for fun things because they're all around.
South Table is also a really good hike where you can look over like all of Golden, which is just fun to see like where you're living from a different perspective. And it's only about like a 45-minute hike up, so and back. So
Awesome. All right, just really quickly before we wrap up, I've just got a couple of reminders. So students, be sure to join us for our final welcome webinar this summer. That is going to be Tuesday, August 5th at 5 p.m. and it's going to be Nest and Residence Life, talking all things move-in and hell of a welcome. You will need your applicant information to register for that. Also, make sure you're completing those order your next steps in your admissions portal, and that you're checking your Minds email throughout the summer. You should get important information from our office as well as other campus partners. So please, in the weeks leading up to move in, please make sure that you are checking that. But that being said, that is kind of our webinar for today. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to our panelists for being here and helping answer questions. And we look forward to seeing you all in just a few short weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.